Book 2 shattered my heart. I actually cried. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Vlogmas video. As you can tell by the title, I am taking you through a little book review. It may be a book haul. I might show you what I have reading coming up, but I'm definitely going to be reviewing some recent reads. Before we jump into this, let me tell you about myself when it comes to reading. I am very easily entertained. I just read things that I enjoy. It doesn't have to be the most profound. It doesn't have to have some crazy elaborate plot. There might be some plot holes. I just read what I like. And some books that I like might not be for you, and vice versa. It's a form of escapism for me, and that's how I treat it. So don't be like, oh, I don't like that book. I don't care if you don't like it. I liked it. All right, let's jump into this little book review. You saw my last one, which I will link down below just in case you want to take a look at it. I did mention ACOTAR. I'm not going to dive into ACOTAR, but I needed to speak about this before I jump into the series that I started. If you are new to the fantasy world, ACOTAR is where I suggest you start. It's just a great beginner's guide to jumping into fantasy, and it's like heavy on the romance. Very, very heavy on the romance. Now, this same author, Sarah J. Maas, also wrote the next series that I'm going to go into. I suggest starting here before we jump into Throne of Glass. Now, they are not intertwined, like they are a completely separate series, but I still just recommend that one first. Now, if you've read ACOTAR, then you know what comes next, which is the Throne of Glass series. There are 8 books in this series. I've read 3. I'm working on the 4th one, and I also have like 3 more. This book follows the lead, Selena Sardarthian, something like that. She is a young assassin. She is pretty much inside a prison. It's like prison / concentration camp. Most people don't survive. Like, they're working to the bone from sun up to sundown. She's been in there for over a year until one day this guy shows up who ends up being a prince, and he's like, hey, the king is hosting these games and he's looking for his own personal assassin, and everybody is kind of choosing their player, and the prince chose her. He promises her, hey, if you win this games, I will pretty much set you free after about like 4 or 5 years. Now, the thing is that this king is like a madman, and of course is evil. He pretty much wiped out most of the Fae. There's like no magic, and there's barely any Fae left because of what the king did, which they will go deeper into this as you read it. So she hates him, but she wants her freedom. So she's like, if I just work for him for however so many years, then I will become free. The only thing is that the prince tells her that she must remain anonymous. She is like a notorious assassin. Everybody knows her name, but nobody knows what she looks like. So that's pretty much what the gist is of this. As you get further into the series, obviously the storyline starts to change slightly. Throne of Glass is obviously book 1, but you have this like prequel, which is called The Assassin's Blade. You can look up on TikTok, and you have like these like crazy fans who will tell you the best order to read it in. I think if you can write 1st, 2nd, or 4th. This book is more of a backstory on Selena, at least some of her story, because she has a very in-depth story. It's a lot of like short stories within this. I chose to read it first because I wanted to know everything that was going on. I'm very happy that I read it first. It was so sad. Like, I shed a tear from this book. ACOTAR wrote heavy romance and spice. This book, when I was listening to people describe it, they're like, there's not much spice and not much romance. And I was like, I'm a romance girl through and through. So I'm like, what is a book without romance? Not saying there isn't any. There is romance in this, but there's no spice. And they're still so good and just definitely worth reading. Everybody's like, this one is better than ACOTAR. And so far, it's getting there. I can't wait to get deeper into it and yeah, really give you guys a full synopsis on all of the books. But Throne of Glass. Next book I jumped into, this is a trilogy. There's 3 of them. I've read 2 so far, and it's the Bonded by Thorns series, The Beasts of the Briars. These are fantasy books. There's like good spice in these books. Pretty much this is just another take on Beauty and the Beast. So you have this girl who lives in the human world. Her dad is like the local crazy. Someone took his wife, and he knows it was in the fantasy world, and he wants to find his wife. And he's been looking for years. One day, her father disappears. She goes looking for him, and then she ends up stumbling upon the Fae world. She gets there, of course, there's like things trying to attack her, and she goes running through like the forest and stuff until she comes upon this house. She enters the house. She ends up finding her father like locked away in a basement. And then who comes? This massive beast, this like giant werewolf comes in, and he's like, nah, your father's staying here. And she's like, well, let me take his place. Like, I'll stay here forever if you just send my father home. And so they swap her. Very, very much Beauty and the Beast. The only thing is, there's 4 beasts in this book. This is a wise choose, reverse harem kind of thing. The magic is starting to disappear. One of the beasts tells her that they were cursed by a witch, and they all must find their fated mate in order to break the curse. And then of course there's other things going on like betrayal, people trying to come into power. And so it's her, this human girl, trying to help these 4 beasts break their curse. I enjoy this. It's just like a take on Beauty and the Beast, but adult version and 4 beasts. All right, next up, let's get into the Raven Hood series. This is a trilogy. The thing is that when I went into this, I went in completely blind. And if you read the back of book 1, it tells you nothing. It gives you absolutely nothing. So I'm gonna break down just a little bit because I don't want to spoil too much of it. But you have this young girl, Cecilia. Her parents are estranged. She grew up with her mother and was actually like super poor. Like her and her mom actually struggled. Meanwhile, her father is like a billionaire. In order to receive her inheritance, he tells her she has to come and live with him in this little small town, and she has to work at his company for a year. And so she does that. She wants to go and get that money pretty much to help her mother out, who has struggled forever. And while she is at work, she meets this sunshine of a guy. His name is Sean. And they quickly form a friendship and just, you know, start to build a relationship from there. Now, Sean has these group of friends who she ends up meeting. She notices that there's a lot of secrecy there. Sean's main friend, Dom, who is the grump. So you have a sunshine and a grump. This is a wide choose. She notices that they have like some matching tattoos. Now, she has no idea what this secret is. She knows that there is some illegal activity going on that they do, but she doesn't know the extent of it because they won't tell her everything. I feel like that's all I can really tell you. This is adult series, so there's a lot of spice in it. The first book, loved it. It's cute, Grumpy Sunshine, Wide Choose, loved it. Book 2 shattered my heart. Shattered my heart. I actually cried. Another book I cried in. And then book 3 was a little bit harder to get through. And I feel like just because book 2 was just so like heartbreaking. So heartbreaking that it was hard to get through book 3. But it ended beautifully. This is just, it took a turn that I wasn't expecting it to take. And yeah, I just recommend reading it. I feel like I can't tell you too much and I kind of want you to go in blind like I did. Oh, book 2 was so sad. My goodness. But yeah, Raven Hood series. Okay, so we have Dark Notes here. I will say this is one of like the first books that I just kind of was like, not really my vibe. I don't mind an age gap, but not when it's a student-teacher relationship. I just don't really care for student-teacher relationship, especially when the student is still in high school. Does she become legal eventually? Yes, but it just kind of feels like grooming to me. But I will still explain it to you just in case you want to read it. It is a dark romance. So you have Ivory, who is this high school student. She's kind of a rough upbringing. Rough upbringing. Like, this girl has been through a lot. She has like a crappy brother and a brother's friend who has abused her for years, and her mother is also druggy. She just pretty much had a hard life. She has a plan to escape shitty life she's been through. She has an amazing musical gift. She plays the piano and she's really, really good. And she goes to well-renowned high school and she's in her final years. And she's trying to go to like the Juilliard of schools, but she needs a recommendation. Her favorite music instructor has left So a new instructor comes in and she has to prove herself to this new guy. Now on the other side, this guy lost his job at his former school for having a relationship with another teacher. He gets offered the role at this school, but he's blackmailed by the principal because her son also goes to this school and she wants her son to get this scholarship opportunity. So while you have Ivory, who is trying to prove herself to the teacher to try to get this recommendation for the scholarship, he has already promised that scholarship to the principal's son, which nobody knows about. She starts to form a bond with this teacher, and I feel like I would enjoy this more if maybe college kid and professor, legal age. She's 17 and he's what, like 26, 27? Like he's like a young professor. She also does things for money with other students at the school. And then you have like this teacher who was super dominant. I feel like I just couldn't get behind the dynamic. But if you want a dom sub situation, here you go. People love this book. People love this book. If it just wasn't the age gap, I would enjoy the storyline. But if you don't mind it, I feel like the story was still pretty good. All right, another book that I recently read, Lark. I thought this was fun. I didn't know it was a duo. I didn't know it was a series. And I just picked up one, which I'm upset about because the way it finished, I was ready to start the second one. So every 100 years, Lark appears, which is like this island. It's always there, but it's always like covered by a storm, so no one can get in or out of it. And when it immersed every 100 years, it's only for 100 days. During that time, you have these 6 rulers from 6 different kingdoms who have all been cursed. And the only time they can break this curse is during this 100 days when Lark appears. This curse has been placed on them for the past 500 years. In order to break the curse, one of the rulers must die. So it follows this character, Isla. She is part of like the wildlings. The curse that was placed on them is brutal. One, if they fall in love, they have to kill the person they fell in love with. And also they have to survive off hearts. Their realm is like just really falling apart. People are trying to die off because one, they can't really produce and they can't fall in love. Their ruler is their last hope because next time 100 years rolls around, they're pretty much not going to be there anymore. So each realm has a different curse placed on them, which you'll learn more about. I really enjoyed this. There's just so much like, ooh, who's betraying who, and who's not who they say they are. Like, it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It has romance in it, not much spice. Not much spice, but the storyline is still really, really good. A little fun romance I read. I actually picked up the wrong book. So there's 3 books in this series, but they can be read as standalones. I ended up picking up the 3rd one because I thought this was the first one. It's very similar to like the Dreamland series, like the 3 Kane brothers in that. These are 3 Kane brothers in this. Billionaires, of course, because they always got to make the men in these series billionaires. But it follows 3 Kane brothers and pretty much their love storyline between like each individually. So it follows Leah and Breaker. They're the 2 in here and they're best friends. They've been best friends since they were in college and they've just been best friends ever since. Super platonic. The thing is, Leah ends up getting engaged and Breaker is like her man of honor. He starts to realize that he might have feelings for her and then he hates her fiance. And then on top of that, Leah is dealing with a crazy mother-in-law who's pretty much forcing her and her fiance to get married within 5 weeks. So she's turned to her best friend Breaker to kind of help her and help her deal with this crazy mother-in-law. And yeah, so it's funny, it's cute, just best friends to potential lovers. Spice, a lot of spice in this. It's definitely a slow burn for sure. And then the last books I'm going to talk about are, like I mentioned these before, these Never After novels. So there's 6 of them, I believe. And I have 4 of them. I think I touched on 3 already. They're all completely standalones. It doesn't matter what order you read them in, but they're just kind of like a play on popular animations. Scarred is like a play on Lion King. You have Hook, that's a play on Peter Pan. Twisted is a play on Aladdin, and this is the one I most recently read. The twist on Aladdin is pretty much Jasmine and Jafar. His name is Yasmin and his name is Julian. Her father is the richest man and he wants his daughter to find love. He wants her to be married because he's really sick and he's going to die soon and he wants her to take over, but he thinks like a man needs to run the show. On the other side you have Julian, who's the father's right-hand man like Jafar, and he is upset because he thinks he should take over. He's like, he's been working side by side with her father and he wants the business. He concocts a plan. Maybe if he tries to marry the daughter, then he can take over the company. The only thing is that they both literally hate each other, and all he wants is for both of them to die so he can rule. Enemies to lovers trope. Loved it. These are just little fun, easy reads. That's pretty much a little review on the recent books that I've read, which I'll link all down below. Now, what I'm going to be reading, I'm going to be finishing the Throne of Glass series. I'm pretty much going to be just like bouncing between the series that I haven't finished. I'm going to read the second book in Lark. I'm going to pick up the other books from a long time coming, like the Kane brothers. Usually I'm reading a few series at once and just kind of jumping around between them. And all of the series are always slightly different. So you have the funny, cutesy romance, then you have the fae, and then I'll read like some dark romance in between. Oh, and then I have to finish the Beast of the Briars. I just really like this, and I really like the four guys that are in this series. Give me some recs down below if you have them. That's a wrap on day 4 of Vlogmas, and I will see you guys in the next video.